Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Smartdom Ph.D podcast. And today we are about to learn about this person's smart dumb moments that shaped his journey and is continuously shaping his journey. And this is a person special to me because we have been interacting on LinkedIn for the past 3.5 years, but never got the opportunity to talk to each other. And through this podcast, this is the first time I'm able to experience Eduardo and talking about his journey, which was from being the IT director at a technical R&D center to becoming self-employed to having his book A Life in Motion, and now back to the corporate as a senior operations manager. I think it was truly a life in motion where he has been recording the period of his self-employment continuously on LinkedIn and has been reinventing himself in ways that people tend not to do. And so this would be a deeper conversation about career transitions, why it becomes so hard, and how the world is changing and we need to move towards portfolio careers, which is what his book, A Life in Motion, is about. So, you, Eduardo, thank you so much for making time for this and welcome to the Smartdom PhD podcast. I want to jump right away into the question: what does a life in motion mean to you and what it doesn't mean?
Thank you, Rima. I will answer the question, but before I will dedicate 5 seconds to give back this excitement of being here with you today, not only because of your audience and your podcast, but because of you. I have seen the work that you did over the last 4 years or so, helping so many people, so many PhDs, and trying to find different platforms, different tools, different ideas in which you could enable their own journey. And that connects really deeply with me. So thank you so much, Rima, for what you do. And it's an honor to be here with you. Now back to your question, because I promised I wouldn't hide from
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
A life in motion for me, it came so naturally when we were discussing, me, my editor, about the potential titles for my book. What happens with the book is, I don't know others' experiences that well. My experience was I first wrote the entire book and the title came later.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like 3,057 ideas on where to go, but that exploded in the screen as I was going through it. And when I was talking to my editor, she said, "Yeah, I can see this motion in the book." And that's what I saw as well. And then it's when I decided to adopt it. And looking backwards to my life, starting in Brazil, living there the first 30 years, but even there already moving industries, moving places, moving families, and then getting to this point where I went to the US and then to Switzerland and again changing, it became obvious to me. And this motion for me really means life. It means this energy that we have, that we bring, that we can use, that we can leverage whenever we want, and that boosts the life towards the direction we want to give it.
Okay. Okay, Eduardo, I understand that it's about the energy that you said, the energy within us, and to leveraging that. When we are talking about a life in motion, I think a large part of it is our careers, right? Because career gives us the opportunity to express ourselves to the world beyond our immediate family, right? And sometimes when we are moving into different kind of roles, that opportunity is sometimes taken away, and that wasn't in our control. And sometimes maybe a new opportunity is given to us that we weren't ready for. Okay, so how do you think one should be ready for both? Like you can't be ready for any of it, but still, from your journey of moving from, in a leadership position of IT director to getting into this self-employment, I'm sure that wasn't a decision easy. So from that journey, what is it that you have picked up that has helped you to leverage that energy? And what were your moments where you felt unstuck, but you found the way out?
I I would start saying that there is no one way to live life.
Yeah.
And when I talk about my way, I definitely don't want to push it into other people. I just reminded here of a book, maybe you know, Mastery by Robert Greene,
Mm,
that talks about a very different way of living life that's not mine. You
mm,
know, that is this, uh, I would call it very narrow path where you drive all your energy, all your attention, everything you got into this one thing that some people call it passion, some people call it mission, and so on. And that's a valid path. And I love that there are people out there who follow that path because they give things to the world that others, including myself, are not going to give. And I am telling you all this to say that the way this path worked for me is because, again, first of all, I understood my own personal preferences. It doesn't start outside. It doesn't start with other people telling you what to do or how to live your life. It starts with introspection. In my case, I meditate a lot. I have my coaches. I have mentors. Uh, Loads and loads of coffee conversations. Not sure that the coffee is so healthy, but
yeah.
having fun with that. And then through all that together, finding what were my own interests and the ways that I wanted to drive my career to the point that before I left corporate, I already had a good idea of where I wanted to go or how I wanted to drive it, what I wanted to experiment. And this makes the transitions I had in my life full of motion,
Mm,
full of movement,
mm.
and in a way much easier. But again, it's not because I did A, B, or C. It's because first I understood myself.
Right. And you talked about your personal preferences, right? So, most of the time, people, specifically who have been in leadership positions, because things have been going certain ways, they never had the time to reflect back and look deeply. What are these personal preferences, right? And when it comes to a point where they have to let go this identity of a leadership or whatever role they are, all of a sudden looking at the personal preferences and figuring out the way I want to go about becomes a lot more daunting. Would you
Mhm.
agree to that,
I
Eduardo?
would
Not,
absolutely
yeah,
agree to that,
yeah,
Rima. And I would even add that extend from it with my personal experience. 2 years ago, I went through this layoff. Now it's almost 3 years ago. I
yeah.
went through this layoff. It was
Mm,
a massive layoff. 90% of the IT people here in the company, in the country where I am, were let go. And you could fight for temporary position. Some people did that. You could fight for extensions. Some people did that.
mm,
But end of the day, it was a very, very tough situation. Now, in my very simple mind, I thought I'm ready, because I have been doing these things I told you about, the meditation, the conversations and all for many years.
mm,
And because of my position, being in that director position, I also had visibility that this was about to happen. So it was not a last minute surprise. It was not an email that exploded one day in my Outlook, and
yeah,
then I had to take my laptop and go.
yeah.
I had some time to prepare. And still, Rima, you know what happened? The day after I left the laptop and left my badge and got back home,
Mm,
I felt that what you're describing.
mm,
I felt that identity dissociation, like I cannot really go to that place anymore.
mm.
yes, I was mentally preparing myself, and
Mm,
yet that was not enough.
mm, mm,
And I would say it took me a good month
mm,
or even a couple of months
mm.
to set things straight with myself. There were mornings where I would feel like, yeah, but is this really the right decision? Or afternoons where I thought, maybe I should have fought harder to get one of these temporary positions and stay there a little longer.
Yeah.
And other days where I just thought about friends and colleagues that I would wish and love to be with on that moment, on that day, but I wouldn't because our lives were now different. And that all goes to identity,
Mm,
right? Because our identity is a composition of so many things associated with our daily experiences. And as you said, work is such a large part of our conscious experience here in this planet. So despite of all the preparation, despite of all the knowledge, it still took me some time to let that go and then get truly focused and more comfortable with the path I have chosen for myself.
mm, mm. And again, I want you to elaborate on that a little bit more. And that is because, as you said, even though you had thought about these situations, you were mentally prepared, but when there came a time to meet the moment, it felt like no, the preparation was not enough, right? So I just can't imagine what happens to people who are not even prepared for this or cannot foresee, and it's such a sudden shock hitting them in the face. So at this moment, it becomes a lot of mindset, like how you think about
Yes,
situations. And
yes,
what are the
yes.
thoughts that you are uh, sitting with and, feeding them, right? So, how do you keep shifting to thoughts that elevate you, that energize you? And I think one of the things you started doing maybe around that time is getting active on LinkedIn, right? And also, gradually, as you got comfortable, you also started speaking about your journey and you've been documenting it, right? Many people hold that back because there's so much stigma associated with laying off, and which many times has nothing to do with your performance because so many people are getting laid off, right? So, how did you find that courage to start speaking about it? And how did you keep yourself focused on the fact that I'm going to move with this?
Let me try and give you an answer, but you have been observing the journey as well. So I
Yeah.
welcome you to challenge me here and ask even tougher questions.
Yeah.
I I have been talking with so many people that have been laid off over this last 3 years, and I would say it's a conscious decision that I don't want to be a coach working on that specific field because I feel people that are really really vulnerable
Hmm.
when they are going through that.
Hmm.
But you are in a community. I feel myself as part of the community of
Hmm.
multiple communities, and when people ask for help, I normally have a lunch, a coffee, or a walk in the park with them to talk about this kind of challenges and to go back to my own experience. And the one thing I share with them, and I'm going to give to you and your audience here as well, is the importance of having interests in life,
Hmm.
of loving other things than work.
Hmm.
Number one, for our own mental health,
Hmm.
and number two, even from a more logical perspective, from a risk management perspective,
Hmm.
creating resilience.
Hmm.
I started writing on LinkedIn. You wouldn't believe that. It was 2018.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was like an article every 3 months,
Okay. Yeah.
So it was not really steady. And if I go back in my life, I have always trying and testing different things to see, do I like this or I don't like this.
Hmm.
I guess it was a year before my layoff that I really became very active on LinkedIn.
Hmm. Hmm.
Number one, because I told you I could see it would happen. So
Right.
I was already shifting a little bit my interests.
Yeah.
And number two, because I had this feeling within myself that I wanted to write.
Hmm.
I wanted to exercise this particular craft because it's something that I enjoy.
Hmm.
I'll just push the story very fast to today, right? You know that I have published a book.
Hmm.
You may not know that I am about to finish a second book, and I already have ideas to a third and a fourth.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's all there.
Hmm.
And that all started before
Hmm.
I went through all this.
Hmm.
And that is one interest
Hmm.
that it kept me through the whole journey
Hmm.
because I was so into it.
Hmm.
Even during this month and a half where I was going through this identity crisis, we can call it like that, there was this one thing I could get back into
Hmm.
that made me feel energized, that made me feel connected, that made me feel that I was giving something back to the world, that I was contributing, and so on and so forth.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the other thing that happened 6 months prior to my departure is I decided to fully invest into coaching.
Hmm.
That meant I went for trainings. I did a lot more practice hours. I volunteered as a coach in the company that I was about to leave.
Hmm.
So that became a big part of my life as well.
Hmm.
And then when I left, you would guess, okay, then Eduardo, you focused on writing and coaching, right? No, wrong. Because I am still a technologist by passion, by nature. That's something I enjoy very, very much. So together with those two, I was also doing loads and loads and loads of technical training that I haven't had a chance to do before.
Hmm.
Again, back to the life in motion.
Hmm.
All these interests,
Hmm.
they kept me very connected to life.
Hmm.
And they allowed me to go through this difficult phase. It was not that it didn't exist. The difficult phase was still there,
Hmm.
but I wasn't stuck or getting stuck into it. I was moving through it until I was ready for the next step.
Hmm. Hmm. First of all, Eduardo, lots of wishes for your upcoming books. Okay. Thank you for sharing that piece of news over here. Oh my
Thank
God,
you.
you already have so many plans for the books. That's exciting to know. And coming back to a lot of things, a lot of questions that are now brewing in my mind. I hope I don't lose track of my thought process. First one is the fact that you started writing, and writing is such a skill, I believe, is like a skill that compounds in many different ways, because I think it makes you a better thinker, it makes you a better speaker, it makes you better at building relationships, it makes you better at empathy. So when you started writing from 2018, when you might not have been consistent, versus 2022 when it became more steady, how has writing evolved you? And people are scared to write, right? I'm sure that had hit you too. It even hits me right now, like I'm scared to publish, right? So how did you get past that fear? And in the last 3 years you already have a book for sure, but how did writing evolve your leadership skills?
Wow, so many great questions, Rima. Let me try to address all of them. I would say that I'll tell you a different story this time. So end of last year, middle of last year, I decided to go for the second book. Okay,
Hmm.
and this time I'm writing fiction.
Fiction, okay, yeah.
And you know what happened the first 3 months, Rima?
No.
Nothing,
Okay.
nada.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was trying very, very hard, and I couldn't move. Now, some people would tell you that's a writer's block, right? Or that's a lack of inspiration.
Hmm.
And I don't buy it.
Hmm.
What I buy is effort, is dedication, is movement,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So I went back to coaches, I asked questions, and I decided to investigate something. I had a little hint
mm,
that there was something else going on.
mm,
And I did a technical course on fiction writing.
mm,
And what I've learned is that I have not learned to express myself in that particular way
mm,
before in my life.
mm, mm,
Fiction writing is completely different from LinkedIn writing. It's completely
mm,
different from business book writing. It's completely different from writing an essay.
mm,
And I had already experience with all these other things, but I
mm,
didn't know how to write fiction.
mm, mm,
And then I went through this training. It was like 2, 3 months with a lot of practice and trying out and feedback. Guess what happened after that?
You started writing.
I wrote a book
Oh my
because
God.
the ideas they were all there.
Yeah.
It was not a problem of inspiration or anything like that. It
Mm,
was just the technical ability I didn't have.
mm, mm,
I would say it was the same thing. Now I can go back to it to LinkedIn. When I started writing LinkedIn 2018,
mm,
I didn't really know what I was doing.
mm,
But you know, I was trying. I did one thing and the other, and then when I became more active, I
mm,
experimented with different approaches. Do I want to structure this, more like that?
mm,
To the point that nowadays I go back to old posts and I can clearly see how my flow, my structure, it's following a certain framework that I ended up creating more by experimenting than by rationalizing, you
mm,
know?
mm,
And that I think connects back to your last question on how this changes and frames leadership thoughts and leadership work. I feel it opened my mind to a number of possibilities that I wasn't. It wasn't so obvious before,
mm, mm,
and especially because I have learned to interpret things
mm.
in more ways,
Yes.
multiple ways at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
So not to take so many opinions or statements for granted as if I understood them fully,
Mm,
allowing myself to ask more questions, to go deeper, to navigate, to explore,
mm,
and to offer some of this perspectives, let me call it like that,
mm,
this perspectives back to the people I'm leading, or even the people that are leading me, because leadership can also work towards your own leaders, right, and contributing to something bigger.
mm,
So I think it was very instrumental in my own development,
mm.
and the thing that helped me getting there
Mm.
was doing it. It
Absolutely.
was not overthinking it, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah, I always say courage is not having fears.
Mm,
Courage is doing the stuff with the fears, overcoming them and passing them through. So that was the same when I started recording the videos, you
mm.
know?
Yeah.
That was completely unexpected. And I never thought I would be in a podcast.
Yes.
I never thought I would be publishing LinkedIn videos or anything like that. I would see these YouTube influencers and think, no, that's definitely
Not
not for
me.
me. And
Yeah.
nowadays, I do that,
Yeah.
and that's also part of a development journey in which I accepted that at the beginning I would do, and it would look like horrible. And with time, it would improve because we learn in the journey.
Yes, I am again picking so many things up from the answers you gave. One thing that I specifically want to highlight on is the way you interpret things now, the different perspectives, the different angles you think about when there's something. I remember this when I was working as a scientist. I had these boxes in my head. So if there's a problem, there's a box to think about it, but not connecting the other boxes. So that has so changed. So I can relate to that part, like the interpretation part expands massively. And I think that helps you build your empathy skills too. At least for me, that's the case. And now coming to the not knowing part, Eduardo, there's so much we don't know, right? And as we grow, as we age, we tend to become complacent and not explore much and
Mm.
not look into our interest or have that courage to pursue that interest for long, because I'm sure this writing skill that you started and you have kept expanding on it didn't get you results in the first year, or not immediately. At least you had to stick to it, right? So people, I believe, find that hard. What would be your one piece of advice? You said keep doing, but then when you don't see any immediate benefits of what you're doing, how do you stick to the process? I believe one of the ways maybe to be in a community where people are doing that. Is there any other way?
That's really a great question. How can you keep doing it? And I would say you just mentioned one way, and I think for that matter, LinkedIn is still a great place to be, where you have a community of like-minded people, people that are also interested to invest in that development journey, even if the content or the topic or the niche is different, right? We were never doing the same thing, and yet we are connected, and this connection enabled both of us to keep going and keep developing. So that's definitely one way. I would say, because of my work as a director, so more like the management space, I also worked a lot with incentives, performance, and so on, adult learning, adult development. So these are all topics I was very deep into.
Mm.
And there are a few things that you learn there that you can use in yourself, and they're helpful, you know. One of them is setting up goals. And I am particular about the so-called SMART goals, because if you make them very tangible, timed, and specific, so meaning that you're going to get something done and you're going to get a result that you can measure, you can test against, and you can say, yes, I did this, and I have progress.
Yeah,
It make it easier to take the next step.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Right.
in the case of writing a book, for example, let's say that somebody in your audience is thinking, "Oh, always wanted to do that, but how can I get it done?" I would say when I started, I didn't start with the goal of writing the book. That was more a vision than a goal. My goal was to write the first chapter.
Mm. Right.
First chapter. Get that done,
Mm.
you know. And if you can get that done, and if you can get some people to give you feedback, and then if you can improve that, and let's say you give yourself another goal to enhance it and to get a specific set of feedbacks after a month, then you have developed further, and then you're probably ready to write the next 2 3 chapters, and then you can keep growing, and at some point in time in that journey, then you can say, now my smart goal is to get that book done by this date, and I know I can do that because I have built up to this.
Mm.
What I see sometimes people doing is they didn't even take the first little step,
Yeah,
and they want to take the leap. You know,
yeah.
that
Right.
that's so incredibly hard.
Right.
With video, I remember in LinkedIn, I was helping also some people that wanted to do it, and they felt like inspired, and they would ask me, how do I do, like, for example, the subtitlings and the edits and the cuts, and just forget about all of that. Just record yourself for like 10 15 seconds and publish that thing.
Mm. Right.
That's one, you
Yeah.
know, get that done. And then see how you can do that a little bit better.
Mm.
And then move, and then move, and then move to the point that you're ready, and never be afraid or concerned if it's a skill or a skill set that you don't have and you don't want to develop,
mm,
to buy it,
mm,
to outsource it.
mm.
I give you an example. Uh, Out of the very, very many things I like doing and enjoy doing, business development is not one of them. I don't like going around and selling stuff to
Yeah.
people. I'm more the delivery person than the salesperson. So in my portfolio career, all the selling happens for me through partners.
Mm,
And then you start getting also a better sense of yourself in terms of skills. What are the skills that I want to develop? Sorry, and then how I can take these little steps that build me towards that. And what are the skills that I don't want to develop because I just not having fun and excitement with that, and they don't make sense in my life.
mm,
And how can I get that done? Because me not being able to do it doesn't mean that they are not important.
mm. Right. Right. Okay, I want to shift gears a bit over here. Okay,
Mhm.
Eduardo, and I want to come back to portfolio careers. Okay, we all know how important that's becoming, the way things are changing everywhere, right? Now, with AI coming into the space, changing so much, and we are hearing so much about there may be no jobs in the future, to the state of jobs may be very different. There's so many opinions being thrown at us, right? So in those cases, at least for me, I am scared and I'm also excited. I'm holding both the emotions together. Okay. How do you see things evolving and how are you preparing yourself for what's coming? We don't know what's coming. How are you preparing yourself and how are you actually preparing your kids too for what's coming? Something that we don't know.
I had a sense that you were getting to the question on the kids. I think this is something we shared, right, Rima? And it's a very tough question,
Hmm.
but I will step back a little bit here. I'll just go back to the 90s when I was being raised by my parents.
Hmm.
And I will tell you that the kind of concerns that they had
Hmm.
were very similar to the concerns I see myself having today.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we, as humans, thanks God, we can live the moment, live the present, and live our lives,
Hmm.
right? Not everybody else's lives. But
Hmm.
if we can step back a second from that, we can observe that this has been a challenge forever. We
Hmm.
never know what the future holds. We
That's
never know what are going to be the skills, so what do we do with that,
hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I believe that the some people already figured that out like a millennia ago, where there is a set of very basic skills,
Hmm.
and some are more intellectual,
Hmm.
others are more practical,
Hmm.
that will always get you through any times.
Hmm.
You know, I think that the ability to articulate your own thoughts,
Hmm.
and in that sense, asking good questions, reading,
Hmm.
writing,
Hmm.
having conversations, eventually public speaking, and so on. These are skills that anyone can use in any company, in any job, as entrepreneurs, as whatever you want, forever. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what happens with the technology.
Right.
You and I, we have to express ourselves. We
Absolutely.
have to relate with other human beings.
Yeah.
So invest on that.
Hmm.
That's clear.
Hmm.
On And that's just one example. I am a big believer that everybody needs to have the basics on math, on hard logic. These things are important. Everybody needs to have the basics on philosophy, politics, history, because these are the kind of disciplines that allow us not to reinvent the wheel every time, not to rethink the thoughts that already exist, and get a little bit ahead of the curve compared to the competition. So that's there. But then also the more soft skills, or more attitudes, values. That is a very good book called Grit by
Yeah.
Angela Duckworth,
Yes.
if I
Yes.
remember right, the author. And it talks about something that you can see today and you could see it 100 years ago. These people that are really put their hearts out in the things that they are doing, whatever it is that they are doing, right? They really have this desire to make it happen,
Hmm.
and you can feel it. And
Hmm.
there are two things. One, because you can feel it, that's contagious, and that speaks a little bit to leadership as well. And the second, because they are putting so much into it, they are increasing their odds that it's going to work. It
Hmm.
may not work this time,
Hmm.
not next time, but if you can keep that grit and persist
Hmm.
over time,
Hmm.
then you're done.
Hmm.
And I think the last topic on that I wanted to share with you, that I think is the biggest opportunity right now for human beings, and it's the hardest to understand and get done right,
Hmm.
is our relationship with time.
Okay.
Because we are getting so much of this adrenaline rush through technology,
Yeah.
and it's creating so many unrealistic expectations that everything needs to happen next second,
Fast. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
That people who can just be a little bit more patient, a little bit more persistent, that can allow themselves a year instead of a day, to see the results coming through,
Hmm.
they are going to be even more successful.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. Eduardo, I hear it as the importance of being slow. Somewhere the slow things are important as much as the fast things. And we
Yes.
want it fast, but the process many times is through the slow process, how you're building your grit, how you're building your skill sets. And then once you have the fundamentals ready, you are in a position to start exploring. You stack over it, you stack the skills on over it, on the fundamentals that you have built. Suddenly, that's when you hit an exponential curve where you think you see things happening fast. But till then, it might be slow. And I think you stick to it. I believe that's what you were mentioning, Eduardo. Is that right? Is that the sense of what?
That's right. And I'm curious, Rima, how do you see that in your own life?
Yeah. So you know what? I don't have very right answers right now, but there's one thing that I've been hearing from Tony Robbins, that is the ability to see patterns, the ability to spot patterns. The moment you have that skill, you will not be scared of what's coming. And I think the ability to see patterns comes from exploring a lot, failing a lot, and then adapting a lot. The more you fail, the more you explore, the more data you have, and then okay, it might give you a sense of direction. Oh, this is where it's going, let me take that direction. So that's the thing I'm following right now, Eduardo. On that note, we're going to wrap up this call. I know we are short on time. So my last question to you is, because we speak about leadership, and always this has been, I think, timeless. Good leaders always rise when they have that authenticity in them. Okay. And I think authenticity again is very distorted. People don't know who the authentic self, who they are when it comes to authenticity many times. What does authenticity mean to you? Like, how do you figure out? Are you being the authentic self? Are you copying somebody?
Yeah, I think this one is very straightforward, not straight through. This one is very straightforward, and because it's so straightforward, it's very difficult. what is being authentic? Being authentic is being yourself, speaking
Yeah.
for yourself, and holding to your own truth,
Mm,
even if it's uncomfortable,
mm,
and even if it brings negative consequences.
absolutely.
Now, I was facilitating a workshop big company where we are helping people developing executive influence and participating in the preparation of that workshop. We were talking to the people in the company that wanted the trainees, right, to develop that influence, and that agreed and believed that one of the key pillars of executive influence is authenticity.
Mm,
And right at the moment, one of them said, "Yeah, but of course, not saying this and not saying that in
mm,
front of this and that person,
mm.
then you don't believe in authenticity,
Yeah.
right? Just forget about it." And I want to be completely honest here. There are spaces, there are companies where authenticity is really not as much invited.
Mm, right.
That where it's expected that people are performing a role, a certain way of acting, a certain way of coming forward.
Mm,
Now, that shouldn't discourage people from being authentic,
mm,
because I have seen in these very same companies some of the most authentic people I have met in my life, and
mm,
they are extremely successful.
mm,
But they went through that period in which they are overly criticized, and
mm,
they eventually even have to accept setbacks and challenges because they are authentic,
mm,
right? So if I feel that every time somebody asks me about authenticity, it's almost as if, is there a way to have to be authentic without having risks?
mm.
And no.
Right. Yeah.
If you want to be your full self, if you want to be your real self, you have to burn your fingers a little tiny bit.
Mm,
And it may be because eventually you have an opinion, and that's your authentic opinion, and it's dumb. I have done this myself. I had beliefs, or I have ideas that were completely absurd,
mm,
but I had to put them out there and get feedback and learn about that so I could grow.
mm,
And that's also why authenticity is so strong.
mm,
Being authentic doesn't mean that you have to persist in being wrong.
mm,
You can be authentic and change and learn and become a better person,
mm,
right?
mm,
But definitely, the more you're performing because you want to be seen in a certain way and you want to mitigate the risks, you don't
mm,
want to accept the consequences of being authentic,
mm.
the less probable is that you're going to get there.
Hmm. I loved it because you differentiated it so well. Just to rephrase all of it, when you're authentic and when you're not authentic, when you're not authentic, you're performing to meet up to the standards of how people expect you to be. And when you're not, when you're being authentic, is you are anyways putting out how you feel about things, how you talk about things. And in the process, you might end up talking to people who might not like you or people who might like you for what you are. Okay. So, people, audience listening to it, I hope you get the difference between the two. And the way to this authenticity is a journey that might not happen in a day, but having the courage to repeatedly accept yourself for what you are. Okay.
Yeah,
Eduardo, yeah.
I'd love to offer an example here because I really don't like the guy, Elon Musk.
Hmm.
He is now a big figure, and a lot of people say love them, other people say hate him.
Hmm.
And I would say I don't care about that when I'm thinking about authenticity, because authenticity is not good or bad, right?
Yes. Right.
Authenticity, it is what it is.
Yes.
And you see the guy, and he is authentic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of his success,
Yes.
forget again about opinion, a lot of his success comes out of his authenticity, of his him allowing himself to say the things and to work for the things that he truly believes in.
Yes.
And again, I disagree profoundly from most of the things he is doing and saying.
Mm.
But I can recognize the authenticity and how this is playing in his favor. And
Absolutely.
the best I can do if I disagree is also be authentic myself and fight for the things that I believe are important.
Mm. Mm.
And like him, because he gets a lot of people like me saying they disagree with him,
Yeah. Right.
accept that
Yes.
authenticity brings this aspect where you're not going to be liked by everyone. That's not the goal of being a leader. That's not the goal of being authentic.
Exactly. I am glad you gave this example to close this concept of authenticity very, very nicely. And on that note, I also want to quickly mention about your book again, A Life in Motion. If this conversation inspired you, I'll leave a link to that book right below this conversation. Audience, you can grab
Thank
the
you.
book and if you want to read it. And Eduardo, it was a wonderful conversation. It didn't feel like that we are meeting for the first time. It felt like we already knew each other. And thank you so much for the deep insights you brought in for the conversation today.
Rima, it's me thanking you actually because I felt very connected here. I feel it's a one peak, not a deal peak, but one peak on our relationship and how it develops. And I would invite people to also see it from that perspective. As we talked about the skills, as we talked about life in motion, also the relationships, how they keep developing. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to be in motion with you.
Absolutely my honor. And we'll catch up with you again soon.